Hey, it's Eric. I'm talking about the newest brewer from Hario, the V60 Suiren. Now, Suiren means water lily in Japanese. It's just a beautiful and striking brewer that is designed to be a conversation piece and maybe a centerpiece of your kitchen. It uses standard V60 filters, and I'm doing a couple experiments with it to see how it brews and if it's worth your hard-earned cash. Now, I will say, and I don't really like doing this in videos, I would love some likes and comments, and even if you have it in your heart to give me a subscription, that would be really, really cool. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers just so that I can make better videos. As you can see, it's got a real striking design, really out there. And I believe that they must have developed this to kind of stay competitive in the growing world of specialty coffee. There's a lot more drippers. It's not just V60s and Kalita Waves out there anymore for pros. There's other really beautiful drippers out there with a number of colors. For example, the Origami Dripper. So the Hario V60 Dripper, is a classic. It's arguably had the biggest impact of any other pour-over system on the specialty coffee industry because it really allowed you to have a lot more control over how you could brew your coffee because it had this great big hole in the center of it, and then it was designed to let air flow. Therefore, you could experiment with different grind sizes, different ratios of brews, more grind, less grind, things like that. But anyway, it's been a while since they've come out with the V60, and though they've made them out of a number of different materials, glass, plastic, you name it, they haven't come up with one that's quite as funky looking as this before. Now, these are made out of a resin here, some kind of plasticky resin, and when you get it in the box, it is not assembled. So when you order this, it's gonna come all taken apart, and that does seem a little, when you're first opening the box, like a little daunting, but actually it snaps together quite easily. One advantage of this is because it's so durable and basically unbreakable, you can just throw it in the dishwasher, easy cleanup. Though, if I remember reading the directions correctly, this little guy here, the holder, is not dishwasher safe, but the rest of it is. It works the same as any other V60, uses V60 filters, and honestly, I don't really know why they had developed it. I don't think there was a demand for this brewer. I don't think anyone was looking for a brewer with more, that's just basically a holder for filters. So what I'm going to do to just test it out is I'm going to brew 2 brews with the same paper, one on the Suiren here and one on the Origami Dripper, which should give me a little bit more resistance, a little bit less airflow because it is a solid body. I'm going to brew them both on the same grind setting, and I'm going to just time them, and I'm going to see if one of them goes a little bit faster, one of them goes a little bit slower, if there's any taste difference at all, or if no matter which brewer you buy, does it really make a difference where it's all about the grinder and the technique. I just want to answer a couple of those questions, but let's give it a go. For this little experiment, I'm going to be doing a 15-gram brew using the standard 16:1 ratio recommended by the Specialty Coffee Association. I'm going to be using a washed Ethiopian coffee from Bolt Coffee in Rhode Island, a favorite coffee roaster of mine. I'm going to be grinding this on the Fellow Ode, and I'm going to be doing this on a setting 4. And we're just going to see how that goes. Hopefully I don't have to adjust those parameters too much. So let's give it a brew. All right, let's give the filter a little rinse. Distribute that a little bit here. We're going to do 240 grams here. Mostly be paying attention to the time. I want to see how these open design affects the speed of the brew. Let's brew. Give it a little bloom. Okay, that's 30 seconds bloom time. I'm gonna add water to 150. Just gonna try to keep that water level. Okay, we're hitting 240 right at about 157, 158, so we'll say 2 minutes. And then we're gonna see how long it takes for the drawdown. Okay, so right about 3 minutes, 29 seconds for the Suiren. Okay, so now let's try the same brew on the Origami ceramic dripper, another beautiful statement piece of a dripper. It takes multiple filters. It takes Harios, it can take a Kalita, it can take a Melita. It just basically is designed to be very versatile. All right, ready? Okay, hitting 240 at 143. Okay, so we're hitting the end of the brew right about at 2 minutes 40 seconds. Significantly faster, which is not what I expected. So let's investigate that a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna let those cool a little bit and give them a taste test. I want to mention that this is not a very scientific approach, or it's pseudoscience, I should say. I'm not going to be checking the total dissolved solids on these. I'm a pretty low budget operation here, so I'm just doing it kind of a standard way. I'm going to reproduce this a couple times on my own to see if I can reproduce this again. But I will say that it didn't go how I expected. I expected for all this extra airspace here that perhaps the Suiren would be a faster brewer. And I thought for the Origami Dripper that this would be slower, because clearly there's a lot more restriction here being it solid. Perhaps it's just a different in the way the filters sit creates some more depth. So let me just see if I can measure that. Level that out. All right, so now I'm gonna take a little, as most scientists do, I'm going to use a Crayola crayon here. You know, shocking. Suiren, which took longer to brew, is measuring at about a 5.5 centimeter depth for 20 grams of coffee. The Origami Dripper is for the same amount of coffee, 20 grams of coffee, measuring at about 4 centimeters depth. So this will give this the shape of the, even though they take the same filters, the shape is very different. This guy right here is giving you a deeper bed than other brewers, and therefore it's going to get the same time, need a little bit of a coarser grind. I didn't expect that, but that's kind of interesting. And these V60 filters both fit in there perfectly. All right, just very unscientific tasting here. Oh yeah, sorry, if you don't like Slurpees, I'm gonna slurp a little bit. I'm not doing a real tasting here, but I like to slurp. Helps me taste the coffee. Well, it's good. Black tea, a little bit of that astringent black tea kind of flavor in a good way. A little bit of on the back aftertaste, a little bit of soft chocolate, and the acidity is definitely more something akin to citrus, like an orange or tangerine. And then for the Origami, so a lot more mild in a flavor. The astringency, the tea-like kind of bitterness is not there at all. This is a lot sweeter brew. I honestly, either of these, if I was served either of these at a cafe, I would be really, really happy with the coffee. Knowing what I know now, I would probably adjust the grind ever so slightly in either of these. I would say that this one right here, coming in at about, I think it was about 2.5 minutes total brew time on the 4 setting, 15 grams. This is a better brew. It's not over extracted. It doesn't have the bitter note that I'm getting from the Suiren. But that has really nothing to do with the brewer. That just has to do with the recipe that I used and trying to use the exact same recipe on two brewers that brew differently, which is interesting to find out. These are both great cups of coffee. I like them both. I like getting kind of a tea-like bitterness from my coffees now and then. As a flavor I do like. It's very different than getting a bitterness from like a defect. And I do like this being so just juicy and a lot more just that citrus coming through so much stronger without any of that bitterness to kind of back it up. Okay, so I was pretty dissatisfied with the control of comparing the Origami to the Hario V60. They were very different brewers. There's no real way to compare that, unless I had the recipes pre-dialed in, and then I just didn't feel like it was going to really show what I wanted to show. It wasn't going to show whether or not this brewer, with its lack of walls style, this kind of versus a regular traditional V60 with its regular walls, if that makes any difference at all to the brewing. So went out, bought a V60. I mean, who needs money, right? So anyway, I'm going to do it basically the same parameters, 15 grams. I'm going to be using the same coffee, this Bolt coffee, Ethiopian. I'm going to be going a couple notches coarser. As I saw when I did that at 4 on the Ode, it was a little slow, and that meant that the coffee didn't taste quite up to its potential. So I'm going to go 2 notches coarser. I'm going to go to a 4+2, aka 1 finer than a 5 on the fellow Ode. I'm going to be doing as well as I can to brew these guys the same way, and then we're going to see if there's any difference at all in the taste of the coffee and if this brewer makes a difference or if it's all aesthetic. So let's go. So I'm going to do a 30-second bloom. Oh yeah. Okay, we're hitting 240 right about at 2 minutes on the dot. All right, so that's about it. We're coming in at 3:30 for the total brew time. One advantage to the ceramic cone is that it warms up quite nicely, and you're gonna have better heat retention with a ceramic cone just because when you preheat it, it gets warm too. Try our best to get this as close as we can. So it's not a perfect experiment. There's lots of other factors that could easily be different. Temperature for the water for one. We're at the end of the drawdown here now. All right, so coming at about 307, so slower. Okay, I think these coffees have cooled enough to give them a good tasting. I really do prefer my coffee to be a little bit cooler than you might get served from a cafe. I think that's where the flavors, especially from light roast coffees, really pop. So first off, I'm going to try the Suiren brewed on a coarser grind than earlier, and let's see how it goes. Once again, I'm going to apologize if you're sensitive to slurps and eating noises. I know I am. Just cover your ears for a second. So on this brew, not surprisingly, it's a little bit less astringent, a little bit, still got a very baker's chocolate kind of cocoa kind of flavor in the back there, but less of the astringent tea flavors, more of a lighter, mild tea flavor, a little bit juicier, still getting plenty of citrus in there. Actually a little bit of some other flavors, more like a red citrus, like a ruby red grapefruit. So flavor did change quite a bit. Just basically any of that kind of bitterness that I was picking up before was because it wasn't dialed in properly, but it was an experiment. So let's try now the V60, the traditional V60 ceramic, and if it tastes any different. Folks, to my palate, I like this better. Formula is the same, grinder the same. It might just come down to the temperature, and of course I'm willing to admit that I'm not using a super accurate kettle. I'm just doing it off the boil, mentally timing things. But I do wonder if the heat retention of the ceramic cone could have affected the flavor of the brew, just keeping that temperature warmer while it brewed. It is ever so slightly less bitter. There's just not that astringency, that slight hint of astringency that I'm getting from the Suiren. It is juicier. There's just a lot more kind of citrus there to really chew on. Let me just say this, both brews are good. I would be super happy, I would be stoked to get this coffee in a cafe. No matter which one I got served, I would be super into it. They are delicious. For my palate, both brews on the ceramic tasted better, just a little bit less bitter notes and a little bit more fruity notes, a little bit brighter, a little bit sweeter. That pleasant, round acidity, that delicious kind of like tangerine flavor was really present in both the V60 ceramic and in the Origami ceramic. The Suiren, though, is a great brew, and if you like the look of it, please go for it. Yeah, good, but getting a lot more black tea flavor overpowering the fruit flavors. So I'm gonna drink all of these. I like them a lot. Does this affect your decision at all? Are you interested in getting this brewer? Do you think it just looks cool enough that you would like this in your kitchen? Or do you already have enough coffee toys at home and you don't need another thingamabob? If you get a chance, like I said, give me a like. Comments would be great, even if it's just hello. I also would love some more subscribers. I'm really trying to get to 1,000. I'd really like to do more videos. Getting love from you guys really helps light a fire under me, really helps me making more fun coffee content, and little by little I'm getting more comfortable at it and getting better at it. So that's that. If you get a chance, all right, that's it. What else is there to say about it? That was cool.